Next up, we have Vikki Salinas, who is a clinician at CAPSA, Domestic Violence Recovery Center.
Go Vikki!
Good afternoon, everyone. Let me hear you.
Yeah!
So I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Vikki Salinas, and today I'm representing Citizens Against Physical and Sexual Abuse. Many of you know us as CAPSA. For the last decade, I have been working with victims of domestic violence. First as a caseworker for an emergency shelter in El Paso, Texas, and now as a therapist at CAPSA. My most important role is an advocate for those survivors that want to be heard and are saying enough is enough.
Yeah!
In my experience, I have seen firsthand the effects that gun violence has on those suffering from domestic violence. I'm going to share with you a story. Back in 2007, one of my first clients had just come into an emergency shelter. I asked her, "Has your partner ever threatened you with a weapon?" She thought long and hard about how to phrase her answer. After a long pause, she said, "He's never threatened me with a weapon directly. However, he does own a gun, and occasionally when we start to argue, he'll just take his gun out and start cleaning it, right in the middle of me talking." She grew really quiet and said, "I don't say much after he does that." Her dignity to speak up for herself was taken with just one gesture. It gave me chills. According to Everytown, a movement of Americans working together to end gun violence and build safer community states. Abusers typically use their guns to threaten and control their victims, even if they never pull the trigger. In America, 4.5 million women alive today have been threatened with a gun by their intimate partner. Enough is enough.
Yeah!
As I started to do more research, I learned more startling statistics. Women in the United States are 16 times more likely to be killed with a gun compared to women in other high-income countries. The bottom line is, guns make the United States the most dangerous country in the developed world when it comes to violence against women.
Yeah!
The mere presence of a gun makes it 5 times more likely that domestic violence will turn deadly. The majority of its victims are female. Between January 2009 and December 2016, 54% of mass shootings involved a domestic partner. Enough is enough.
Yeah!
This next statistic stood out to me, so I'll read it slow. In the last 10 years, 42.9%, that's almost half of all homicides in the state of Utah, have been domestic violence related. Our Utah households are threatened by this very problem. The Utah Department of Health found that at least one woman is murdered by her intimate partner every 33 days. It's time that we stand together and say, enough is enough. So what is next? We can support legislation that backs up our law enforcement. Right now, Utah law enforcement only has the ability and discretion, and I quote, to confiscate the weapon or weapons involved in the alleged domestic violence incident, end quote. This means law enforcement cannot remove any other weapon around the home. They were not allowed any other weapon that was involved in the incident. We as a community can do more. Utah can take a comprehensive approach and remove all firearms that perpetrators have access to during a domestic violence incident.
Yeah!
What else can we do? We can support background checks and other laws that keep guns out of the hands of perpetrators, especially perpetrators with a history of domestic violence. Studies show that cities and states that restrict access to guns for people with domestic violence protective orders see a reduction of 25% in intimate partner gun homicides.
Yeah.
25%. That's a good thing. So today we join our brothers and sisters marching across the country. We honor those lives that were tragically lost, not just to domestic violence, but we remember those from Columbine to Stoneman Douglas, and we say no more. Enough is enough.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Vikki. We're now going to turn the time over to Terry Gilfillan and Carolyn Tuft from Moms Demand Action, Utah chapter.